Chris Collinsworth here, along with Sam Monson and Steve Palazzolo. It is that special time of year when Steve puts out his mock drafts. We're up to number 3 at this point. And then my favorite part is after Steve tells you who is going to be picked, Sam beats the hell out of him. So it's great. You'll love the whole thing. So we're going to go with the 10 most interesting draft picks in the first round of this year's draft. So not in any particular order. This is something I've sort of picked out a few, and I want you guys to tell me exactly what you think is going to happen. Okay? Fair enough?
Let's do it.
Well, let's start with Cleveland, the first overall pick. They have 1 and 4 in this draft. Do they take a quarterback? Could they possibly pass again on a top-end quarterback at the top of the draft and take Saquon Barkley? What happens with Cleveland in the first pick?
They have to take a quarterback. I mean, we're at the point where there's absolutely not for a running back, but you're not passing up a QB. We've been saying for a while, I think the guy's Baker Mayfield. He's the best quarterback in the draft, the most productive quarterback in the draft. Go get Baker Mayfield at number 1. Get your quarterback.
Yeah, I wanted to hate this pick, but I can't. Baker Mayfield has got to be the pick at 1. If you're the Browns and you're staying with that pick, which they have to do, you've got to secure your franchise quarterback. And everything on tape, everything in the numbers says that Baker Mayfield is the franchise guy of this crop.
All right, now let's drop all the way down to number 2. Stunning, right? So we have the New York Giants. Eli Manning still has plenty of tread on the tires. So now do you go out and get a Saquon Barkley or somebody else that helps you win now, or do you draft the quarterback of the future because you don't know? Will you ever be at number 2 again with a quarterback class like this?
Yeah, same answer. I think you have to stick with the quarterback. I mean, the Giants don't pick in the top 10 every single year, and it's a class that has a number of first-round quarterbacks. Eli's just he's not only declining these last couple of years, but he's definitely at the place where you are looking for his successor. And I think they're going to look back at the 2017 season and say they kind of lucked into this bad year where they had a chance to go get a Sam Darnold, a Josh Rosen, a Baker Mayfield, whoever happens to be there. I'd go grab Sam Darnold, go and get the next quarterback. I understand the loyalty to Eli and all that stuff, but it's time to get the next guy.
Yeah, I'm with Steve at least in terms of it's time to start looking for Eli's replacement. You don't get the number 2 overall pick in the draft every single year, and Eli has declined enough that you have to be looking to replace him. I think the thing that they did right last year was benching him and seeing what they had behind him on the roster. They just didn't get as far as Davis Webb, which I think was the most important guy to evaluate last season. I'm going to take issue, though, with the guy you're sending them to. Sam Darnold, I don't think, is the number 2 quarterback in this draft. I think you go Josh Rosen, if just because he's an Eli Manning clone. That's True. What he is. That's the comparison I have for Josh Rosen, is he is a new Eli Manning. He's the guy you can bring in there, whether he starts year 1 or not. He is the perfect guy to replace Manning.
So we have another team in the Denver Broncos who pick at number 5. Now, free agency is going to play a role in this as well. Do they go out and get a Kirk Cousins if they possibly can, a Case Keenum, Sam Bradford, whoever the case may be, or do they go draft yet another quarterback and try and rebuild because this defense is still very good, but not quite what they were a few years ago?
I mean, it seems like they're the team that would like to go get a free agent quarterback, pair that with the defense, even if it is a step back from where it was at in their Super Bowl year. But again, much like the Giants at 2, I mean, how many times are you going to pick in the top 5? Well, I guess if you don't have a quarterback, you might be here again next year. But go get somebody. I think there are enough of these first-round quarterbacks that you take another shot. You know, we say every single year, it doesn't really hurt to take a shot on a quarterback. If it hits, the upside is just so immense. If it misses, you're back here 2 years later after drafting Paxton Lynch, and you're saying, "Hey, let's draft another guy." I don't think it's killing their franchise to take another shot on one of these.
But they
QBs.
won a Super Bowl going out and getting the veteran Peyton Manning. Why not follow that formula again?
Yeah, I think that's what they want to do. They're in a bit of a tough spot because I don't think they have the salary cap space to make a real play for Kirk Cousins. If they get him, it's going to be entirely selling him on the concept that this is a team that can win a Super Bowl in a hurry, and you're going to have to take less money to make that happen. So I think if they're looking for a quarterback in free agency, it's going to be a guy like Case Keenum, like Sam Bradford, one of the second-tier quarterbacks. It isn't Cousins. But I think they're going to do that rather than take another shot at a draftable quarterback because I think they're probably a little gun-shy after the way Paxton Lynch has turned out.
All right, the New York Jets. The Jets have to have a lot of things, but mostly they have to have a new energy for this franchise.
Yeah.
And drafting one of these quarterbacks, I would think, yeah, if you can get Kirk Cousins, go get him. But I would think that drafting one of the quarterbacks would create a little buzz in New York.
So my latest mock draft has them taking Lamar Jackson out of Louisville. Sam hates this, but and Lamar's actually a little bit lower on our board. But again, like the other teams here, it doesn't kill you to take a shot on a quarterback. It's a little bit higher than I would like to take him. But the Jets have holes all over the roster, but the biggest one is at quarterback. I still would think that Lamar Jackson is a first-round caliber quarterback that you could build an offense around. You have to very specifically, use him in the run game enough to protect him. Open up some of those easy passes. Understand he'll make some of those downfield throws as well. It might not be this, perfectly efficient, 15-play type of offense, but there'll be plenty of big plays if you tap into his running ability.
ESPN and Fox would love to see that because that's the moment in the draft. If that happens, whoa, everybody goes crazy.
Lamar in New York.
I'll give you a little bit of a break in that you already have Mayfield, Darnold, and Rosen off the board at the time you gave the Jets Lamar Jackson. But Lamar Jackson at number 6 overall is insane.
So what are you going to do at quarterback?
You get to take Josh Allen. Look, I've been higher on Josh Allen than you are. Even I'm not sold on him, but if you're going to take one of those guys who you think is going to come good as a franchise NFL quarterback, I think Josh Allen has a much bigger chance of being that guy than Lamar Jackson does. The other thing about taking Jackson is you do need to build that offense around him. You need an NFL franchise to embrace Lamar Jackson is your quarterback, knowing that you need to craft an entirely bespoke, unique offense around him. And I can't see too many.
And you're putting your general manager career on the line. You made that pick. It better work out. All right, Chicago Bears. We're going to talk about them at number 8. They got their quarterback a season ago. Lose Josh Sitton. Do they rebuild the offensive line? Is there a wide receiver at number 8 worthy?
Yeah, see, I think that's the big issue. I think they would love to go get a wide receiver. Last year at this time, we were talking about Mike Williams and Corey Davis and John Ross as these top 10 potential wide receivers. This class just doesn't have that. It has a number of number 2 guys and slot guys and some big receivers that can do stuff down the field, but I think they're much better off grabbing that receiver early in the second round. There'll be a lot of good talent there. I think that leaves it wide open for the Bears. With all of these quarterbacks potentially going off the board in the top 10, you grab the best players. They could still use more help off the edge. They could use another corner, maybe a guy like Josh Jackson. That's where I went in my mock. Cornerback out of Iowa. I know Sam's been high on him. He crushed our system last year in a breakout season. I think there's a number of different ways the Bears can go, but the receiver position's not the perfect spot.
Yeah, that's the thing that's going to eat at them at draft time is that they desperately want wide receiver help, and I just don't see there's going to be value there at number 8. I would go and take the unglamorous pick, take the guy that is a all-pro caliber guard from day one, and you might be able to move him to tackle and get a quality tackle right there at number 8. If you tell him that you're getting a Pro Bowl caliber tackle, a guy like Marshall Yanda, who can be an all-pro inside and a Pro Bowl level right tackle, that's worth number 8.
So Quentin Nelson out of Notre Dame. He might be the best player in the entire draft, so the big question is that too high for a guard? But after releasing Sitton, that actually could be the play for Chicago.
All right, maybe the most interesting team going into next season, the San Francisco 49ers. They hit the hot streak. They went 5 in a row at the end of the year with Jimmy Garoppolo. So now what? You've found your quarterback. You've paid him. But this team still has a lot of needs.
So they're rooting for the QBs to go off the board like crazy. All those good defensive playmakers end up dropping to them at 9. They're in a weird spot because if you look at their past drafts, they've drafted defensive line each of the last 3 years, but they did it initially for a 3-4 system, and then last year they get Solomon Thomas. They still don't have that pure edge defender, the guy that looks like a Myles Garrett that just gets up the field and gets after the quarterback. I think that puts them in the market for a guy like Bradley Chubb out of NC State, or the guy that I gave them, Harold Landry out of Boston College, who didn't have a great year in 2017, but 2016 got after the quarterback and then crushed it at the combine. I think he's a potential top 10 pick and another defensive lineman for that system.
I think free agency is going to push all these edge rushers higher up this draft than they deserve to go. It's a horrible group of free agent edge rushers. There just aren't that many quality guys available that are going to be able to add pressure to your roster. So consequently, guys like Harold Landry are going to get pushed up. Nick Chubb is going to get pulled up, or Bradley Chubb, sorry, is going to get pushed up. And I don't think they have that clean tape that deserve a top 10 pick. I think they might go with a defensive back. Take a guy to shore up that secondary, provide some extremely top-level coverage. A guy like Denzel Ward, Ohio State. Look what Marshawn Lattimore just did in his rookie season. This guy could come in and transform that defense with coverage.
Speaking of defense, the Green Bay Packers, they get rid of Dom Capers, their longtime defensive coordinator, Mike Pettin, comes in there, and the Aaron Rodgers clock is ticking. And I almost get the feeling in hearing some of Aaron's comments, he would almost prefer defense at this point, even to more offensive help.
Yeah, I mean, and they've invested on the defensive side, but they've got these, young corners who have been hit or miss the last couple of years. But I still think there's room to add a really good athletic linebacker like a Roquan Smith. That's where I went. In my mock out of Georgia, I mean, he is the prototype for the new NFL linebacker. Sideline to sideline, can cover running backs, great coverage, range and zone coverage.
Ryan Shazier kind of guy.
Much like a Shazier from an athleticism standpoint, exactly. So I think Smith would be a really good fit. And this is kind of a position where Green Bay has really been content with guys that, just make the plays in front of them in the run game and don't really add playmaking potential. I think Roquan changes that for Green Bay in the middle of the first.
This is a great spot for Green Bay to be picking, I think, because that defense needs help everywhere. They could pick an edge rusher, one of the guys that I think isn't worth the number 9 overall pick with the 49ers, probably is worth 14 where Green Bay picks. They could address cornerback, safety, linebacker. Pretty much anywhere on that defense needs an injection of young talent. And I think they can just sit there and take the best player available.
All right, the Dallas Cowboys at number 19. Jerry Jones not too happy with the fact that somebody inside his division won the Super Bowl. He thinks it's his time. What do the Dallas Cowboys do to put them right back in the mix for a Super Bowl?
So I think I would love to give them a receiver there. I still worry about the receiver value in that first round. I think getting a guy that could separate, get open, make life a little bit easier for Dak Prescott would be great. But the other need that they've had for years now, I think, is just that massive run plugger in the middle of the defense. And I think Vita Vea out of Washington is a guy that fits extremely well. And I wouldn't put him in the first round if he was just the big body that doesn't get moved in the run game. He can push the pocket as a pass rusher. He was one of our top graded pass rushers last season in Washington, despite being 340 plus pounds. So I think he's not your just 2-down nose tackle. He's a guy that can affect the game on all 3 downs.
They rotate those defensive linemen, so likely first and second down guy, but who knows?
Yeah, I think that's a decent enough pick. I agree with you, though. I think they need receivers on the offensive side of the ball. And it doesn't just need to be wide receivers. They could look at tight end as well, where Jason Witten is coming to the end of a Hall of Fame career. They could use a dynamic pass-catching tight end, a rookie guy to come in, learn from Witten, understand how to get it done as a pro, and become this incredible weapon that Dak Prescott just doesn't have right now.
Okay, the 9th and 10th on our list here, and they are very interesting. The Buffalo Bills, Tyrod Taylor, but they have picks 21 and 22. So if they want, they could probably move up into the top 5 of this draft pretty easily. What do you think? Is Tyrod Taylor's time finished in Buffalo?
I think it is. I mean, I think they've done what they can to kind of push him out and show that, hey, we're looking. And I think that's the right move, is to use Tyrod while you have him, but also be looking elsewhere. I would love to see them make that power move to go up and get one of the top 3 or 4 guys. But if they're sitting there at 21, Mason Rudolph out of Oklahoma State, that's where I went in my mock draft. A guy that I don't love in the first round, but if you've got the 2 picks, I don't mind you using one on him and giving it a shot. And again, I don't think you're...
Assuming you're not trading up.
Right, assuming you're not trading up and you're sitting at 21, I don't mind using that pick on Mason Rudolph, seeing what he has. And again, if you're in the QB market, again, another year or 2 from now, it's not the worst thing in the world, but he's had a nice career at Oklahoma State. He does a lot of nice things throwing the ball outside the numbers. I think he's the guy. And then if you could pair him with a playmaker, a tight end like Dallas Goedert out of South Dakota State, who makes incredible catches with his long frame, and he's great after the catch despite being 260 pounds. I think you can completely reshape that offense with a quarterback and a playmaker there at 21 and 22.
Yeah, I've always been higher on Tyrod Taylor than a lot of people. I think you can win with Taylor. Even if he is a limited quarterback, he's never going to be Aaron Rodgers. He is good enough to win games if you build around him and create a roster that's good enough to carry him. He's not a guy that's going to carry the team, but he can be part of a winning franchise if you surround him with those picks. And there's no better time to do that than when you have 2 picks in the first round. I would use them both to start building this roster around Tyrod Taylor. Give him some help. There's plenty of quality players at that. If Vita Vea makes it past Dallas, he would be a fantastic guy to come in there,
need a nose
replace Marcel Darius, and you get Cedric Thornton out of that role because he just couldn't hold up there. I think you go defense and start building this roster around Tyrod Taylor, and you've got him on a cheap contract to help you do that.
All right, let's go to number 10 on our list. And finally, the always interesting Pittsburgh Steelers. So much going on with the Steelers. Conversation before the year and during the year about Ben Roethlisberger. Is he approaching retirement? Le'Veon Bell now getting tagged again. He's not happy. Ryan Shazier injured on the defensive side. They need desperately to get back in the linebacker game. The Pittsburgh Steelers, what do you say?
All right, so in the current mock, I'm going with Josh Allen out of Wyoming. And I know that in reality, he might not last that long. He's going to be, somebody's going to fall in love with him a lot earlier. But I think the entire QB class of 2004, from Roethlisberger to Eli Manning to Phillip Rivers, it's time to find their replacements. I still think there's something left in the tank for Big Ben. But if you could get a Josh Allen at that point to be that next guy and to groom him and knowing that he's going to take over in a year or two, I think that's an ideal scenario. If they're not going to get a quarterback, I would love to see one of these playmaking tight ends. Dallas Goedert, again, who I mentioned with Dallas, maybe a Mark Andrews out of Oklahoma. That seems like one of those added pieces to that Pittsburgh offense that makes them even more dynamic.
But you want to make Ben insane? Draft a backup quarterback, because he's going to say, I have 2 or 3 more years to play, and you're wasting one of my picks. Give me another weapon or give me somebody on defense. Let's go win a Super Bowl right now, just like Eli.
Yeah, and that's what I think you need to do. You need to give him some more defensive help, because the Steelers' defense has become a problem. It used to be the thing that was what propped this entire franchise up, and now it's kind of exploitable. You can attack that defense, particularly in coverage. And I think this is a great linebacker draft in the first round. If you've got a guy like Roquan Smith out of Georgia and Tremaine Edmonds from Virginia Tech going early in the first round, you're still going to be left with Leighton Vander Esch from Boise State late in that first round. This guy is a huge linebacker, put on like 15 pounds for the combine for the greatest reason ever, because he said the NFL is a big boy league. So he added 15 pounds of muscle and is coming to play. That is a guy you want in your defense.
Big boy division too, AFC North.
That is our top 10 most interesting picks of the first round. Sam Monson, Steve Palazzolo's third mock draft is out now at Pro Football Focus. Check it out and then send all of your tweets
Steve's way.